Welcome back. This is the Poet Is a Human with the Philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 37. Oof! Fight for awareness. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing and keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
Dunamis, what it look like?
This is such a cool episode and a great week, man. I'm feeling great. You know kind of what's going on with me personally. I've got a new job, and that's going well. I need to pick up some more hours, and I'm engaged, so that's all happening. Yeah, it's just life. Life is coming at me fast, and I've got a plan and a purpose to work towards, man. So I'm excited. How are you doing?
Dude, that's incredible. Sounds like a really dope roller coaster you're on right now. I like
For
that.
sure.
And I'm doing, hey man, I don't have a lot of complaints. You and I have talked off the record button, about some of life's challenges and things like that. But all in all, I have breath, I have life, I have another outlook on being present. And that's been a big thing, especially these past couple weeks, is just exercising on being present. It's been a little tough to be present these days. But I think with that being said, too, there's just been a lot of great things that have been going on behind the scenes. Been working with my team and getting everybody in the right positions. So, I think that comes with its own stress, and it's good stress. And tomorrow, I've got a few other things I've got working. And yeah, man, I've got a high school reunion to go enjoy. So, yeah, the day has come, y'all.
Definitely. And we have talked offline a little bit about what's gone on, sort of the stresses and emotional things. I think that's a big part of what we want to talk about this week, is starting with self-awareness, right? There's
Mm,
I have tried a lot to change my personality over the last few years. I know that might sound strange, but I um I was not a very nice person for many years, and a big part of changing your empathy towards others is I try and listen and hear for places that I can either help or understand or listen more. And you had a chance to talk to me about some things this week. My fiance had an opportunity to tell me some things that she was struggling with this week, and I've it's strange going from a place personally where I feel like I'm always needing others, to try and find a place to be that person for others. It's and the imposter syndrome that goes along with that is pretty crazy too. I'm sure you can imagine.
yeah,
And
definitely.
it's just a part of our growth, right? And that kind of awareness, I think, is something that we all need to have, is understanding how we can listen to other people, but how what we say affects everyone and everything, and trying to view our life through the lens of other people's situations as well. It's very difficult, but what do you think about all that, Izzy, and what we talked about this week?
Man, it's like that with recording music, especially when you want to be creative and wanting to convey this message, and just knowing that everything that you're saying, it just resonates inevitably. It's just the sounds themselves. So all of that, and the person that you are too, like you were talking about, just all of those things go hand in hand. Is a human is who I am as an artist, and on the other end, that's who Isaiah. That's they're all. they're all connected. You know, it's a part of me. And when you have more conscious thought about where you're at, it in that moment, right? What I was talking about earlier, just being present, being present in that moment, you really get the gauge. You do get the gauge. You don't fully get the gauge when you're separated. That 46 degrees, 47 degrees, it's that difference. And it could even be 46 and a quarter, to, 3/4, but it's just that much of a difference for sure. And it's an every second thing. It's not just an every minute or an hour, it's an every second thing. And everything you do in these moments, they really do count. So it's also not to, we're not trying to scare anybody either, being like, you need to pay attention and focus on everything that you do. But the more conscious you are and like where you're at, the more things just make sense. And I think things become more simplified in that way too. What do you think?
Yeah, I also do. I agree. I think that while a few of us may get neurotic about things and overanalyze, I think that there's much less of a risk of that than having no ability to make decisions for yourself. Because I think the scary thing is about, I think about consciousness, and I think about even mushrooms and mycelium we've talked about, and that level of consciousness that just, it's still consciousness. This is some sort of fungus that knows somehow how to move around and find resources. And I see that as a very low form of consciousness, and you think about animals, and then you think about humans and what humans are supposed to be. And I'm afraid sometimes that a large portion of the human race, and I'm not again trying to make it sound like I'm better than anybody else. I just think that there's a lot of humans out there that would rather not think, would rather not go through the struggle of having to decide item by item what they actually think and believe about things, and argue with themselves, because it's difficult. It's not a pleasant thing to have to argue with yourself in your mind over a particular topic, to really flesh out how your soul believes about a particular thing. But we've talked a lot about, and this is going to be a continuation of things that we've said before about, political parties and religious affiliations, and all of these things in the news, that we allow all of these forces in our life to communicate truth to us. And when we accept that truth without questioning it, we're lowering our level of consciousness
Mm.
rather than being more aware, right?
Yeah, it's so simple as allowing an alarm clock to wake us up in the morning, and the reason being to, X, Y, and Z. And, not to discredit any, of the reasons why we get up or anything like that, but it's just more of I would say, the monotony of it, and really not knowing what you're waking up for, why you had the privilege to wake up, right? Some people just wake up and say, hey, this is what I have to do, blase skip, and there's just motion, there's no emotion, right? And they just go throughout their day, and the time passes and it's taken for granted, versus people who wake up with ambition, wake up with conviction of, this is my why, this is here, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on, and really make those seconds count, make those hours count, remember their why throughout the day, and are able to stay so focused and not be discouraged even when there are barriers in front of them, but just knowing that it's a part of the process. And just in that alone, and explaining somebody's routine on the day to people who have the same routine, and just their mentality with the routine.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with routine, and that's even something that I've had to overcome mentally. For a long time, I really just wanted to say F it all, and jumped off so many cliffs just to be a full-time musician when I wasn't ready. And definitely learned the hard way. That's without a doubt. And I had to come to the realization that I'm more than just a music artist. I can also work on cars. I can also talk to people. I can also sell whatever. Like I also have other skill sets too that can be utilized that can help me further along my journey. So I had to make that make sense, and you can have a million people telling you everything that makes sense, but whether it actually makes sense to you and whether you comprehend that, it's always going to be up to you to make that decision on how far you want to take these things, because everything at that point can just be taken with a grain of salt. But yeah, man, it's that battle that you have inside is a lot more powerful than any open dialogue that you could have with anybody else. And and I'd say the only reason that it would be equivalent in power is because, or just based off of how powerful those questions you have and those messages and those thoughts that you have of yourself. So I would say the louder your insecurities are, the louder it'll be in your face, whether that be in the mirror, or whether it be in front of somebody else or a group of people.
Hmm. Yeah, the solitude episode, we touched a lot on how you have to spend that time alone, have that sort of monologue slash dialogue with your shadow, with yourself, and
Hmm.
it's the whole thing is a process and a journey, like you said, and when you were talking about the idea between the two people, I think oftentimes too we'll think it can't happen. Like, I don't have that ambition, I don't have that drive, I don't have that discipline. Well, I didn't, and that's somewhere that I can say it's what the great thing about it is. It can be anyone, if as long as you want to be awake, you can be awake. You can raise your awareness, and it's really not that hard, and it happens slowly and over time. But we've talked on this podcast about understanding money and what money is and inflation and what inflation does to your money, right?
Right.
And what's in the food supply. So there are these different topics that we can go over and discuss. The awareness, I mean, we can talk about it, and we can at least try and make people somewhat aware of it, but I think awareness is an individual choice. You have to decide not only that you're interested in these things, or that this is something that pertains to your life and your family, but generally there's some amount of do your own research that has to happen too, you know.
Oh, and definitely, yeah. The money, especially, man. I actually want to tap back into that just a little bit. Just with everything that's been going on right now, just looking at the state of Cardano and making moves, man. I like the direction of crypto right now, and looking at that in comparison to what's going on in the economy now, man. I mean, what are some of the things that you're seeing on your side that if you could shed
Yeah.
your own perspective of like what you see coming?
It's interesting because we haven't I think in a very early episode, in the money episode, we actually talked a little bit about the charts at the time. And
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
been a while since I've pulled them up and really talked about it on an episode, but I can tell you that gold in particular has been bull flagging sideways. I mean, it's basically chopping up and down. It's been in this 3,000, between sort of 3,200 and 3,500 almost, but really 3,400. And it looks like it could get a leg up higher at some point. And silver has been doing something similar. So those are assets that I think at any point in time, if you can accumulate silver and gold at whatever the current price is, just understanding that over time it's gonna go up is a good thing. With crypto, like you're saying, I mean, yeah, Bitcoin's also sort of been chopping up and down in this $120,000 range almost, but ADA has really been ripping upwards. I know we've chopped here recently as well, But this definitely feels like we're getting into altcoin season, and you can tell that whenever the and this is really my first time being here at the beginning of it, but it really feels like the ETH Bitcoin ratio has bottomed out, and with Ethereum gaining ground on its Bitcoin price, that that signals that there's money moving around. People are selling some of their Bitcoin, they're buying Ethereum. People will then sell some of their Ethereum and buy altcoins on the Ethereum network as well as other chains. And so, the way I've seen it describes this cycles move in waves, and we've seen Bitcoin go up a lot, and I think we're probably getting ready to have some fun in the altcoin season, which is good because we've been waiting a really long time. Not financial advice. I can't tell the future. I'm not a prophet, and so take it for what it's worth. I hope the price goes up, but that's all I see.
Okay, very cool, man. No, I appreciate that, and I'm sure our audience does too. And looking at all of that, and then putting that in conjunction with the actual dollar bill, with these things happening in the back, and just these other avenues that people can seek wealth and longevity. What do you think long haul the value of a dollar can go with this?
The uh, the interesting thing about all of this, and the all the stablecoin bills and things that are passing here, I really think that the idea is to try and save the bond market. They're trying to save the ability for the United States government to be able to issue debt,
Mm,
and that will having stable coins increases demand, right? What that's not going to do is probably anything at all related to the value of a dollar, which I would expect, as long as they're printing dollars, to continue to go down, which unfortunately means for everyone like myself that works an hourly wage, or gets paid a salary in dollars, that is going to be worth less over time, and AI is going to continue to take more jobs, and so you're going to have less jobs that are making less monetary value over time. And maybe we have innovations to offset that. That's the idea. That's what people are hoping for. I've I just have seen, and I feel like when you have automation and AI can maybe give businesses the ability to hire less people, that money is probably going to end up in the pockets of the shareholders of that company, not necessarily in pockets of regular everyday people like us.
right.
So, you know,
That's what,
go ahead.
man. I'm with you on that too. You get the worker, the person who had said routine of going somewhere, to now they don't need to go anywhere at all. Now you start to build a lethargy around that, this whole remote thing, that even a lot of people would like to be in a different setting to work, at home, so it doesn't
Mhm.
feel like work is home, if that makes sense. And I think if you build a new routine around that, I feel that over time Americans just aren't going to want to work, unless there is that the enthusiasm for someone to be a part of the automation. But man, that goes right back into what we were talking about earlier, dude. Just being able to think for yourself, right? And there's just so many ways they can wrap this around our heads, man. And again, guys, take this with a grain of salt. These are things that I would normally think. Now I'm on a recorded space and I could say but it just goes right back into that whole thinking for yourself and building your own.
It's The world is going to look incredibly different, I think, and I don't know exactly what it's going to look like by any stretch of the imagination. You can have all the AI, like as an example, you can have an AI system for a warehouse that runs robots, right? But you still have to have a mechanical engineer who can
Right.
fix the machines. Otherwise, the AI is not able to do things in the real world. So you can either figure out ways to interface and learn the technology and be a mechanical engineer. I think that's probably a possibility. I I personally am trying to get away from the system as much as possible, and that's what has me wanting to get into homesteading. If I can figure out a way to have chickens, some land, I can grow my own vegetables in a garden, and maybe have some dairy cattle, and then produce goods from the land. Or I think the future is going to be businesses, for people to be creative enough to find a niche and create value for other people that can be sold. And whether you go and work for a big business to try and do this, or whether you do it on your own, I guess is a personal decision. Whether it's, you know health food, or music, or health care, or the things that humans still need. There's always going to be a need for nurses, right?
Hmm.
That's life.
Right. Yeah, it made me think too while you were talking about the homesteading, and just even if, like, even in that world, again, the simplicity of it, you wouldn't need much. I think that we would get to a point where people would hit a reset, perhaps, and see things for what they are, and hopefully maybe realize that these things that we thought we needed weren't as pertinent as we thought they initially were. Everything is, and how many times have I said this? Everything is important until you get sick, and then
Exactly.
nothing else is important but you getting back to 100%. So again, this even goes back to just awareness, y'all, like our episode of just even that overall thought of just being mentally well. When you're mentally well, you're physically well. And the food, speaking of physically well, that's another thing too, man. Just being aware that everything that you're eating over time is going to have some effect on your body. Good,
Yeah.
the good stuff, the bad stuff, our fight for food episode, when we were talking about monoculturing versus permaculture, and just being able to mass produce, and why that was even brought up to be why that was even brought up to begin with, during the Industrial Revolution, when all of those cities were being built, and there needed to be a mass production of those things. And at that time, those things make sense. And it's not to discredit the evolution of our world and being able to meet the demands as we rose in our population. No discredit to it at all. But now looking at these things long term and seeing the effects that food has had or hasn't had, and now it's just the things that we're doing to combat this is, it's been such an epidemic. It's really just been this trial and error. We've definitely been some lab rats for sure, and I won't delve into that and go into any conspiracy thoughts. But just overall, this is just this moment, and just being able to have this platform and being able to say that we're in different times where everything that you're eating, you can look it up, you can look at its benefits, you can look at its weaknesses. And all I can say throughout all of this is just maintain a balanced diet, everything in moderation. And just know that if you're putting it in your body and you're putting it in your kid's body, and just, you got to think about this stuff over time. I mean, I just think about the kids I went to high school with, and how much different we look in comparison to the kids that go to high school now that still look like they're in seventh grade. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing. Like, I mean, are all of those kids eating like grass-fed bison? Like, what is happening?
I think yeah,
Yes.
I think that the crazy thing about health today, and like you said, we're in a day where ignorance is kind of a choice almost. If you are fully aware about all of the choices and the things that are out there, the next problem for most people is the cost of eating healthy is prohibitive for most people. And so I can tell you, as somebody who has spent many years, doing Hamburger Helper and
Yep.
throwing a can of green beans in with the Hamburger Helper is fantastic. But
It is. Can be.
I can say that they're small. They're everything in moderation works as a good start. I think that working towards a place where we're just making more, cooking more at home is a good step because the stuff that they have, even if you think it looks, oh, I'm going to the McDonald's and it has, they're eating meat and it's meat and cheese and on a bun or whatever it is, but those French fries are fried in seed oils, and the meat is not the highest quality meat. The American processed cheese is not even real cheese. It's it's all of this adds up. And so the what we're talking about here is an economy of energy, of when we talk about the food thing, and all of this is tied in together: the money, the food, the pharmaceuticals. We need to wake people up and at least become aware to the fact that the system is rigged against you. And when you see how rigged the system is against you, it makes you want to, you know, the bread, man. I'm just gonna go back to the bread. You'd think bread should have four ingredients at the most, right? It's wheat flour, yeast, salt, and water. I think there's really not a lot that goes into bread. But if you look at just any loaf of bread nowadays, there is so many preservatives, and not only that, there's substances in it that make it so that you can eat it faster. One of the craziest things about this is my fiance has a gluten intolerance. There are a lot of people with gluten intolerances nowadays, and
Hmm.
it's this was not something that happened a lot. It was maybe 0.6% of the population or something that had celiac disease, maybe hundreds of years ago. And I understand there's parts of it that are genetic, but we spray Roundup on our wheat in the United States. They spray glyphosate, which is a chemical carcinogen that's known to increase estrogen amounts in men and cause breast cancer in women. And I believe a lot of what we call gluten intolerance is people having allergic reactions to the poison in American wheat.
Mm.
So, there's I have I'm lactose intolerant. I'm not supposed to drink milk. It upsets my stomach. And yet I've never had raw milk in my life. I know from doing research that there are enzymes in raw milk that are killed during the pasteurization process, that again during the industrial revolution, for the sake of making it safe to drink milk en masse, they had to kill it to kill all the germs, to make sure it's completely safe, right? So they won't get sued. And because of that, we don't have the beneficial organisms in the milk that allow it to help us to digest it.
That part, man. Yeah, and I do recall that. And same thing with our eggs, and I feel like some of the more fundamental things, because I do feel like milk was that staple in the family home, and I mean, again, it has its benefits, and now we've altered into almond milks and oat milks, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff too, but I just feel, as we see these things happen over time and as technology develops, you know, I think that we would want to enhance the quality of our process to make sure that these benefits were kept. Now that we are able to store things and we have more industrial buildings that can store things for an extended period of time. And I think it's funny because I'm going to give this off comparison, but it's like we can barrel age this bourbon for 15, 20 years, and it's like the best thing ever, right? But we still can't figure this thing out with milk. It's kind of funny.
I think you can get raw milk as long as you get it from a source that you trust, and it depends on the state you live in, what the laws are, and all of that. So I won't get into, this is not life advice. You need to do your own
No,
research,
no, it
see
is
if
not.
see if it's legal in your area. But the fact that something like raw milk might be illegal in your area should raise awareness. It should cause you to question, things. And I just sent you a link, Izzy. I don't know if you have you heard about this carbon-based butter that Bill Gates is now pushing on American people?
No, my gosh, tell me more.
So there's apparently a a new butter which tastes like the real thing. It's made from oxygen from the air and hydrogen, carbon, I think, from I, whatever it is, they've
Ugh,
created a new butter which doesn't have, I'm sure, all of the vitamins and minerals that come in real butter. So
no.
this has been approved by the FDA, and there is a secret list of a bunch of restaurants that are already on board, but I don't know if we know what this list is yet. I don't know if it's going to be public. Um, if you want nightmares too, a peel is another thing that Bill Gates has pushed, which is a sealant, I think, some type of a chemical they can spray on organic food in order to make it last longer. This has also been approved by the FDA, and as far as I understand, does not have to be labeled on the organic produce that you go and pick up at your grocery store. So they're doing things to our food in real time without telling us. You really have to push for the answers. And so if you doubt anything, like I just sent you the link, Izzy, like, am I lying? This is from what? I think it's CBS News. Okay. So, you know, be aware that there's still people that I talk to that are think that cloud seeding is a conspiracy theory, and yet we've talked about on this program the interview on the Sean Ryan show of the Rainmaker CEO describing his company and what they do in cloud seeding. So again, we are living in a time when ignorance is a choice, and I only say that to say if you're not aware of these things, just start trying to look it like the conspiracy theories are all turning out to be true. That's all I'm saying. So look into a couple of them because this stuff will affect our lives, whether we like to or not. Like this affects our environment, this affects our kids, this affects our health. If you go and eat some new fancy carcinogenic butter from your favorite restaurant, who do you have to blame?
Right, exactly. You can't discredit humans. You can't. No, and the reason why you can't is because I can trust humans to mess something up. You got to give them credit. Like we'll mess something up. And I say that loosely because you don't have to mess something up to be like bad. You could mess up the algorithm in the type of music that you make and it breaks the algorithm and now you're the person in the limelight. You can also mess something up in the sense of not realizing or thinking like, yeah, I mean, could give you cancer. And then 30 years down the road, like, okay, yeah, it definitely can give you cancer. Well, we can fix that. We can pickle that. So there's certain ways you can mess things up, but I got to give humans credit for that much. But with that being said, what did we think was going to happen? It's the year 2025. So back when it was 2007 and we were talking about flying cars and it seemed so out of reach and touch phones and whatever, all of that just seemed like it was out of reach. So what did you think happened in the year, and not saying that this all happened at the year 2025, but over time technology has just, it's evolved. So I don't feel like any of this stuff is out of reach to say. To I mean, like, how many times have we heard the word programming? And it's tough, man, because I really want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I feel like that's just my nature to do that. Uh, because I mean everyone has the same information as I do. At least I like to think. And what again, just going back to what you choose to do with that information is on you. But just even if you were born in like the 50s, you know, and you're like you're still here. um I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that, but you know, like, you know, you were just born that long ago where I mean, TVs just wasn't a thing like that. And now it is. And you can touch a TV and it will take you where you need to go. Like you don't have any contradictions. You don't like there's nothing in your head that says something otherwise. But see, that's the thing, man. Like, and I'm sorry I'm going on a bit of a rant, but when people get like that and they see the change, instead of not necessarily accepting it, but just growing, they go right back into that bubble because they're afraid. They let their fear outweigh everything at that point.
You bring up an actually a really interesting point, and I've thought a lot. I've thought a lot about this. I do think a lot about a lot of things, but the generational thing, I've thought a lot about why my parents or people from the baby boomer generation have how they see the world in such a different way than I think people from newer generations do. I think a lot of that has to do with trust in the news and trust in institutions. That trust, a lot of times, it's still there. And the younger generations have none of that trust. And yet, as myself, as a Gen Xer, this is where I'm going to pat myself on the back just a little bit, Izzy. So I I feel like those of us that grew up in both worlds, you know, I grew up without the internet. I grew up without cell phones. I grew up in a world in the 80s when we were drinking water out of, you know, garden hoses, and my parents told me to come home before dark, you know. But it was just a completely different life. And having seen the transition all the way through from my childhood until now, and it's I feel like a lot of people in my generation were the first to wake up because it's so jarring for us. You know, the difference is so incredibly and and the fact that the younger generations now are just accepting the new narrative and so willing to give away their freedoms and just yeah, I'm gonna live in this new digital metaverse and have a CBDC, and that's it. It that rocks my world. I can't comprehend newer generations and their willingness to comply. It blows my mind.
I feel like shout out to your generation because it was your generation. Oh my gosh. See, this is all bad. You guys are gonna laugh. You know, shout out to Dunamis's generation because it was his generation who I feel like they raised us. The so like my mom would be in your, you know, in your bracket. So like the 90s babies, I
Mhm.
feel like we're I don't want to say the last, but I feel like we're the ones that are like, no, F that jazz. This is crazy. But you see, it started off as okay, where you know we were still in that spot where like okay you get the job, the 401k, the pension, you know, you work the 30 years, you get up through, you know, I've been here for a while, and then over time, you know, technology started to evolve, and then other people started to branch off and say, well, I can DoorDash, Instacart, I can do Etsy now, or you know I can do music full time and you know do a little bit of this, and then you had people that were like doing that full time or they were doing some stuff on the side too. So like I see my generation exploring all of the options, and they're not fully convinced one way or the other, but what they're doing is they're still making decisions. They're still exercising their mind to make choices that make sense to them and not for anybody else. You know, versus now the generation after us, it's all one side. It's all one side. Like you wouldn't roofing, what? You know, and not saying roofing is great because roofing is not fun, but you wouldn't catch them. That wouldn't even be a thought for them. It would be, well, I started my merch store. That didn't go well. So I'm going to go ahead and do TikToks now. And then, oh, that didn't go well. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do YouTube shorts now. Like they're not even thinking about working in the office anymore. Like
We're gonna
it,
we're gonna piss off a lot of young people in this episode.
hey, and shout out to you for real, because honestly, if our generation had that technology back then, and
Yeah,
looking at all of the artists now that were scared, like not scared, but they just, well, yeah, they were scared, including myself, because we were always told that you wouldn't be able to make a living doing music or art full time. But we had seen a lot of our great people do it. So what made them different than us? So like we were programmed to be like to think that we would never be better than somebody else. We were programmed to compare ourselves. So
yeah,
there was always that level of fear in there. And I can't you can't blame your parents for that, just
yeah,
because again, that goes off of the things that they saw with their parents and what it took for them to make that living. Like they saw there were different formulas to make a living. So, it's like when I tell my grandma now that I'm doing this music and this crypto, she has no idea what it means. She's like, how do you, so like, where did you, she said, so is that like direct deposit? Like, what is that? What does that mean exactly? So, like, how do you get your
right into
money?
my wallet, right into my wallet.
It's in my wallet. I got a few wallets. She's like, a few wallets. It's all online. It's all- She's worried about my identity being stolen. She's not thinking about anything else. Oh my gosh, man. But it's just it's amazing to me that how even early on how programming has like taken its form with people. It's it's so incredible the lengths that some people will go to make sure that the minority stays the minority.
Oh man, that's 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 the truth. That's the truth, man. Because we still live in a world where the ego tries to protect itself at all costs. And when people have power, their number one desire is to keep that power and expand that power. And they don't care who it hurts, who it affects. And it's I don't see it as a racial thing because it does not matter too much to me. Maybe that's because I'm white, but it doesn't matter too much to me the race of the
Typical.
people. Typical. That's my privilege talking. Um, but I seriously, man, I know that they hate me too, and I know that I have a voice and I can either, I can either just try and look out for myself and not care. Or like we said before, we've said this in other episodes, we have a duty. And that is when you know and you understand things that you feel like maybe are important to humanity. And then there are people out there that maybe don't understand those things, we have to share it. There's an obligation to share it. It's not a mansplaining thing. It's not a we're better than you thing. It's a we're scared. We're scared for what's potentially happening. And it's not a Democrat, Republican thing. It's not a religious thing. It's that there are a few super rich people that mostly live in the area of Davos, Switzerland, that want you to eat the bugs. And that's just a fact. And so, whatever that means to you, do it. If that means you want to eat the bugs, then eat the bugs, right? But if you don't want to eat the bugs, then I suggest you listen to some other episodes and tune in next week, and we're gonna not eat the bugs.
Yeah, we threw those bugs out a while ago.
Nice.
We give them to the birds because it's for the birds. Ah, man, wow, we got pretty deep there. Hey, we keep going too. We keep going.
You know, bugs are great for making eggs. You just need to put a chicken in as the middleman.
There it
Feed
is.
feed your bugs to your chickens, and guess what? You'll have protein rich, delicious eggs every day. Everyone that and this is, I plan on selling eggs, by the way, and I have nothing wrong with having more competition. I think everyone in the world should have some chickens, grow some eggs. If you guys are concerned about the price of eggs, buy some chickens, right?
Shout out to my boy Seth Too Saucy, who we haven't heard that name in a while, but shout out to Seth because he has been in the back and he's been doing that, and he is selling eggs. And I'm making this public because I want people to go buy his eggs. $3 for a dozen, y'all.
That's that's a better price than I've ever heard, and I would definitely buy some $3 for a dozen. Oh my goodness. He should
They're
raise his
delicious.
price.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
should. He really should. And he, like when we were talking offline, he's only got a couple acres. And I think he may have, more than a couple, but it's not a lot, not discrediting him not having a lot, but like he has land, but it's not 20, but he's got 40 chickens. Shout out to one of the chickens being named Izzy. So I might be eating some Izzy eggs. We hey, they thought about me, but the chicken's black, so I think that's why they. That's what I was gonna say earlier. Actually, I want to pivot. Racism sucks, and when so, and I'm saying that because I had this really interesting conversation this morning with. I'm in a group of men, and it's called like it's called the no simp zone. And this guy made this comment earlier this morning and said something, that was very racial. And instead of being a normal responder, I guess, and being like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. I made it a joke because it is a joke. Racism is a joke to me. And guys, we can argue about this all day or whatever, but the reason why I say it's a joke is because everybody, the higher ups are laughing at us right now. And they're twiddling their hands and they're saying, this is exactly what we wanted for you guys to fight each other and for you to think that, you're dominant when in reality, like you're just a pawn. And the minority is just a pawn. Like we're all just pawns in this little game that's been played on us for so many years. And at what point do we just say, hey, enough is enough? But we've gotten so far that, again, what we were talking about with the generations, that there are people that don't want to fight anymore because it doesn't make sense for them to fight anymore. So therefore, the things that they say don't matter, or they don't care what they say. So, and all of that being said, like we were talking about words earlier and how powerful our words are in taking these things moment by moment. So when you get the friction of somebody who doesn't care what they say anymore versus somebody who takes in that information and takes everything to heart, then you get conflict. You get conflict, conflict of interest. And maybe this is okay. Maybe I am the dominant race, and maybe these people do suck, and maybe this religion isn't that good. And you get all of those different you get those contradictions in your head. And like, we're fighting over that still. I know people that are still arguing over what phone is better, Android or Apple. Boy, if you don't just get the phone already, no one cares what phone it is. Although I will say that I do get partially triggered when you text me and a green box pops up, but I digress. It's not a big deal. Um, but see what they've done to me.
yeah. I
um,
That's got to be me, I'm sure, because I'm an Android user. I have no clue even what you just said. So I
oh, you've not seen a blue box before in your life, have you?
I don't know, man. I basically I would be fine. I still go back to the thought that I would be fine if my phone just made phone calls. Like I would really just give this up for a flip phone, and don't even need a camera in it. It's it is what it is. And I have a Google Pixel now, and I enjoy it. It's fine. It's fun. But there's a part of my heart that just aches at the fact that we're carrying these computers, these expensive computers around in our pockets, which not because it's not great technology. A lot of what we've talked about tonight, I mean, there's opportunity for technology to change our lives in very positive ways. I don't think that a lot of us are aware enough to recognize all the negative ways that it impacts our life. And
Ooh,
social
yeah,
media is a big part of that, man. And it has distracted me, and I think it distracts a lot of us.
I agree. I was just thinking as you were talking back to our conversation about automation, and just imagine having an automation of setting up your own permacultured farm and programming it to and knowing what vegetables and fruits go together and what natural repel and certain seeds to and you can do all these things now like ChatGPT will give these answers. It'll more or less give you the print, and then you obviously have to put in the footwork to do it. And I'm sure there is some level of automation with that you can build or they have something, but nonetheless taking these things that we know and using them for good, creating an automation of healthy remedies that can be sold in stores, instead of the ibuprofens and the acetaminophen and things like that. Like here's more natural ways to do that. Imagine just doing those things from the start, things that worked for a really long time. And and we have created instant gratification, so people want things to work right away, so we created things that would instant relief. That's the hot cognition right there, is instant relief, as soon as you do it, because that's what we want. But the body isn't about instant relief. More what you're doing is you're shocking your body. You're forcing your body to do something when it takes time to really regenerate these things. You kind of stunt your growth a little bit too. So then when you don't have it, now it's like your body doesn't know how to operate without it. And you build a dependency on that. And then when you don't have it, then that could have some adverse effects. So there's just so many things that, again, to be aware of, and how this all trickles back down into just that core root of just who you are. And the body is a patient, it's a patient matter. We didn't go from 1 to 50 overnight. It took literally years for that to happen. So just really understanding what it means when people say patience is a virtue, that's not just you waiting in traffic, that is just letting things develop
Yeah,
naturally.
man. And what you're talking about too, there's so many spiritual things that to just bring in, because we're talking about awareness, and I know we're getting close, but I want to bring that concept of gender back in, because what you talked about so much are the opposites. It's like I the other night I was having this crazy itch on my forearm, and I was scratching this itch, and I was thinking about how the natural inclination is for me to find a cream or something that will, soothe that itch. I ended up throwing isopropyl alcohol on my arm. I don't know
Okay.
why,
Yeah.
but it burned. It burned a lot for a second, and then it stopped itching entirely. I don't know why, but I'm starting to learn that life is oftentimes about opposites, and there's times when we need that pain in our life. It's like when we're working out, when we're going on those walks in the middle of the day and sweating. Like, our body needs to sweat. There's nothing wrong with pain. We need to stop running away from pain and solitude. These are things that the Bible says produce perseverance in our life. We rejoice in our sufferings. So I would say there's some amount of taking a step back and looking at, and I only bring up genders to say that there's opposites, not to say that there's good or bad in the genders. I'm saying that everything about life is there's light and there's dark, there's up and there's down, there's always a duality, right?
Right.
And oftentimes what we think we need to do is the exact opposite of what we need to do.
Right. Oof. Deep, man. Very deep. As above, as below.
Oh, as above, as below. The whole point of tonight was just to be aware of it. It's not to, we're not saying that the right or the left is right. We're not saying the up or the down is right. We're not saying the black or the white is right. We're saying that it is what it is. It's all it's all a part of creation. And that's maybe where we get into the spiritual, and it sort of conjoins in many ways, I think, the Christian ideas as well as what a lot of people understand that are spiritual and understand just the way this universe works. But it's the way that symbol, you know what I'm saying, the yin yang, right? Or I don't even know if I said that right.
Yeah, the yin and the yang. Absolutely.
It's the opposites, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're right. You're on there. You're on the point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this was a very esoteric episode, I feel like, this week.
I agree. Much needed, though.
It is because I think when people hear this, the next inclination will be, what specific things, and there's so many specific things, and we can start getting into some more specific things in our next episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate you guys once again. Another week.
Man, up to 37, and next week will be 38. I can't wait. Is he human? You absolutely save my mental health every week by taking the time, and I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
I very much appreciate you, man. You're a great friend and a great partner. No, pause. Yeah, great business partner.
Awesome. Well,
if you guys made it this far, drop a one eye emoji in that comment section. Let us know you made it.
Awesome. And until next time, is he human? Never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they drag the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they drag the chains, you can say no, free me.